Do you expect this Do you expect this crackdown to continue throughout the country? And what is your plan for your state if it comes to Kentucky? Do you expect this crackdown to...
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your patience and waiting while I got the show up and running. Broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube and Rumble and Vocal. All of those places we are currently broadcasting on. If you want to join us on any of those, feel free to do so. Don't forget also to share the show with the folks around the world so they can also be privy to all the cool stuff we're talking about, which is going to be quite a bit of stuff today. So grab your pens and papers and pencils, etc. We're going to be talking about some interesting stuff, and a lot of that is going to be right now. So big stuff happening this week. We got a lot of things I want to cover. I was trying to get, as you can see there, a clip. I want to talk about Andy Beshear on The View and his views on ICE. Sorry, I had to stop there and take a drink real quick. Talking about his views on ICE and what he said on The View and what got everybody all up in arms about that. And then we will also be talking about the ICE detention centers again, which evidently is a laughing matter. People think it's pretty funny that ICE is creating detention centers and they're going to lock people up. They think it's hilarious until it happens to them. And that's really, I think, the thing that really has been bothering me about all of this, because people have made comments out there like, oh, you've got Trump derangement syndrome. Why is Trump living rent-free in your brain? And it's not that he's living rent-free, because it's not all about Trump. The reason I bring up Trump so much in talking about this is because I really do, I'm kind of perplexed at how people refuse to admit when someone they have voted for or someone to whom they've lent their support is doing something rotten and horrible. And I asked myself today, as I was preparing for the show, I was kind of talking to myself, let's see. I wouldn't even, sorry, somebody asked another person on my feed here if they were a Freemason, and I'm inviting them to join the live show right now. So there's that. I think that I was thinking about this today before, of course, I did the show, doing all my, talking to myself before the show started, etc. And one of the things that I got to thinking about was what is more difficult for a person? Is it more difficult for a person to admit that they're wrong? Or is it more difficult for a person to admit that someone for whom they voted or someone they supported is a pedophile? And I genuinely think it's more difficult for a person to admit that they are wrong than it is for them to admit that they were voting or had voted for a pedophile. And I say that because even when you're pointing out, let me see if I can do this real quick. Is that better? Is that better there? I don't know. I think that's the issue. Let me do something here real quick before I get too far into this. Okay, I think that's going to help out with the, I'm going to put y'all on hold just a second for just a moment. Hold on for me. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Wanted to make sure that I was on the right camera. Last week when I was on the camera, my mouth, my audio and my video were off, and I'm hoping that this will fix it. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I believe it's more difficult for a person to admit that they are wrong than it is for a person to admit that they voted for a pedophile. And the reason I say that is because even though you tell somebody that, hey, your candidate, and we can use Trump in this situation, your candidate has been implicated or mentioned 38,000 times in these Epstein Files, Your candidate is not the moral person that you wanted them to be. They're not the husband that you wanted them to be. They're not the person. So essentially, they are not who you voted for or who you have been claiming to want to support over the years. Trump is the Clinton of this generation. And even when you go back, because we can use Clinton as well. People talked about how good of a person Clinton was and how, he was from the South and he had a Baptist heritage and he was a great person and blah, blah, blah. And we find out when he's in office, there were multiple scandals that followed him and body counts that have followed him and Hillary. Bill Clinton has been accused of sexual assault and being a sexual predator for over 30 years. And people, even Hillary Clinton, have decided to stand by him and not do anything about it. And we see this happen with him, and we know that Clinton is a piece of crap. We know that Trump is a piece of crap, but these people will still support them. They won't say, no, I'm no longer going to support Bill or Hillary. People were still out in droves voting for Hillary and pushing for Hillary, even though it baffles the mind when it comes to feminism, why they would be supporting a woman who stood next to her husband, who was a serial philanderer and sexual predator. And now it's been revealed that he had been to Epstein Island multiple times. And people don't be fooled, by the way, by this whole Clinton thing about we want transparency. We want to do all the hearings in public. We don't want anything behind closed doors. We want to do this all on the up and up. Now, the Clintons don't let them get away with that. Do not let them get away with trying to be the good people in this. They are not the good people. There's death and destruction and corruption and elitist activities and occultic practices and divination and witchcraft and demonic sexual ritual abuse, satanic ritual abuse, mind control. All of that follows behind the Clintons. So don't let them get away with wanting to be transparent in this new saga, in this new realm when we have the Epstein Files being released. This is the reckoning. This is the time. And I wonder, even though I've been a heavy critic of Q, and I still think it's a disinformation campaign, but QAnon has been talking about the storm, right? The storm coming. The problem that the storm, if this is it, the problem with that is that it's also taking down Donald Trump. So when people say things like, it's time to move on, why are you letting Trump live rent-free in your head? It's not about Trump. It's about every single person. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, all of these elitists that have been involved in this and have known about it and did nothing about it, who have participated in it, who have aided and abetted, who have been serial predators themselves. It's about justice for the victims of those people. If Trump goes down, he goes down. If RFK goes down, he goes down. If Clinton or Obama or any of them go down, they go down. I want them all to burn. I don't care their political affiliation. They have hurt kids. And in some instances, what we're seeing here released is their admissions of doing cannibalism, of having cannibalism, and being involved in cannibalism and such. So I do. So the whole thing about it's just about Trump. No. The majority of the time that I'm talking about Trump, I'm trying to get people who are still supporting him and who refuse to see the damage he has done and his implications and the possibility that he is also part of all of this as a perpetrator, as a predator. I'm trying to get you to at least question this. I was having a conversation with somebody last night, and I said they were going on about, it's one of these things about how, Donald Trump is playing, 53D chess or something like that. And, he's like the Heisenberg of the presidents where he's manipulating things before they happen. And he's called, by refusing to release the Epstein Files, he now makes the Democrats force the Epstein Files to be released, which then implicates all of the Democrats. It's not just Democrats. Stop thinking left and right. It's not about Democrats and Republicans. It's not about left and right politics. It is not about left and right politics. It is about right and wrong. It is about the light and the dark. It is about the side of God and Christ and the side of demons and Satan. That is what this is about. It is not about your political parties or affiliations, so stop playing the political game. When I'm posting these things on Facebook, when I talk about Trump, it's to wake you up and make you realize that you are now defending and continuing to support someone who is implicated in this. Someone said last night, as I was saying, I was talking to them on social media, and they were like, Donald Trump isn't in the files. That's like saying Bill Clinton isn't in the files. That's like saying Jeffrey Epstein isn't in the files. He's there. Did he do anything? I don't know. Are there a lot of implications that he did stuff? Oh, yes. Is there a track record where I would believe that he did those things? Absolutely. Because there is a track record of him being a sexual predator and a philanderer and all kinds of things that he has done, unfortunately, that are anti-Christian and anti-family values and anti-pop culture. So I would believe it because that's in his character. Just the same way that if somebody told you that the Clintons have been potentially implicated in a murder, you're like, oh, yeah, that's just what they do. You would accept it on face value with nary a shred of evidence because of your past experience or because of your political bias. That is what I'm simply asking you to do with this. Don't just say, well, Trump had absolutely nothing to do with this. This is his method all along to expose the hypocrisy, to expose the deep state. No, Donald Trump has done jack diddly squat to get the deep state removed. Donald Trump has done jack squat to drain the swamp since he has been in office, both times. Last year, he started out strong with Doge. He was exposing, hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in corruption in the government. This is all great. And then the Epstein file thing hit, and then it just went full stop. And all of his energy was focused on trying to convince people that the Epstein files were not to be talked about and not to be discussed. And now, as Pam Bondi, this Skexy and addressee, sits in front of our representatives and tries to lecture them about the Dow when they're asking them, why haven't you done anything about the names that are in the files? And that is really a great and telling question, and even more a telling answer. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. A telling non-answer from Pam Bondi. So people are clamoring for the unredacted versions of the Epstein files. We want to know who's behind those black boxes. Who are the names? Who are the people? Who are the perpetrators? Who are the criminals? Who are the predators? Who are the cannibals? We want to know who the pedophiles are. We want to know so that they can be brought to justice. And if this interferes with a criminal investigation, then the question is, have you indicted anyone? We're not asking names yet. Have you indicted anyone? And Pam, I'm not playing these theatrics. I'm not playing. What are you talking about, theatrics? He asked you a straightforward question. Have you indicted anyone? Because what we see in the Epstein files is we see a bunch of redacted black boxes. I can understand Jeffrey Epstein's dead. God's going to deal with his justice. He's going to get his just rewards. He's going to get his comeuppance. But the government knows who is behind those black boxes. The government knows who the people are. They know their names. They know their at least old email addresses. Why have they not gone after them? Why are they so quick to move on from the Epstein files when there should be prosecution after prosecution or indictment after charge, after arrest, after houses being stormed? They care more about brown people being in the country illegally than they do about child predators roaming the streets free. Where's the crackdown? If Q was right, and this is the storm, and this is the release of all of the files, and that this is the implication of the worldwide pedophile satanic ring, if this was the worldwide satanic pedophile ring, which we have most of us have believed it existed. But if this is the if this is the exposure of that pedophile ring, where is the other side of the storm? Are we in the eye of the storm right now? Where are the indictments? Where are the arrests? Where are the raids? I mean, people believe that the Obamas that there was a secret tribunal held for the Obamas at Gitmo, and that they were unalived for their crimes against humanity. People believe that. People believe that it wasn't actually Joe Biden, that it was a fake Joe Biden. It was a deep fake sometimes, and then also a person in a rubber mask. They believe that. But then those same people believe it's time to move on from the Epstein Files because nothing's there. So my question is, why is this not living in your mind? Why is this not stuck in your craw? Why is this not rolling around in your brain hole? Why aren't you thinking about this and trying to find ways to expose the people who did it and the people who are covering up for it? So, I mean, it's either you don't care about children, you don't care about justice, you care more about Donald Trump and this administration, or you don't want to admit that you're wrong. And I think that that's a huge part of it. I think a huge part of all of this is the cognitive trauma. The cognitive trauma that will be caused by a person having to stop and think, holy crap, what have I done? Who have I voted for? And this is not just for Trump supporters. This is for the Obamas. This is for the Clinton supporters. This is for all the people who have supported the politicians. This is for the people who pushed Bill Gates. By the way, Bill Gates has been to this administration's White House pushing the vaccine mandates and pushing vaccines, etc. So this is for all of those people who were talking about how great Elon Musk was. This is for everybody that for some reason wants to move on from the Epstein Files. This is honestly, this is a challenge to anyone. I don't care if you're left. I don't care if you're right. I don't care if you're a Trump supporter. I don't care if you're a Trump hater. If the words, let's move on from the Epstein Files, come out of your mouth, you're part of the problem. All right. I didn't mean to get started on you like that. Let's see. So Debbie here has said, and by the way, I received a text from someone. I won't say who it was because it's kind of, I don't want to say ministerial confidence, but it is in confidence. I received a text from someone about flat Earth. And I was like, oh, look at that. And it's somebody that I would never have expected to even entertain the potential of there being a flat Earth or the Earth being flat. And I was kind of surprised. I was like, hey, this is great. So I began talking. We were sharing information back and forth. There's some resources that I have in my digital library. Now, I used to have a huge library. I kind of regret, by the way. I see all these people that have these books and bookshelves behind them with all their books on them. I regret not doing that. With all of my books, I had a really awesome backdrop with the reclaimed fence wood that my dad and I planed out, and we hung up in my studio. If you remember from back in the old studio in the old days, but it would have been really awesome to have my books behind me. But anyway, I have some copies of books in my digital library, which remind me to say something about this here in a minute. All right, I want to talk to you all about a possibility, an idea that I'm rolling around in my brain hole with Allison. So, but anyway, this person reaches out to me the other day and they said, "Hey, I'm really starting to think that the Earth might be flat." And I'm like, "Hey, welcome to the club." And she, I mean, they have, they were talking about the Book of Enoch, and I have some resources that I'm going to send to them because I have not only the Book of Enoch, but I have some books that are companions to the Book of Enoch, and then books about Mount Hermon and about how the fallen angels, the Nephilim, came down from heaven and educated the man on dark arts and witchcraft and occult practices and metallurgy, etc., and pharmakia. There's a lot of that stuff out there, and I was like, this is fascinating. The things that I honestly, really since about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months after the fire, I just like stopped thinking about. And I stopped thinking about them because I kind of went through this period where I was deconstructing, and I still am. But I realized the other day, I'm not deconstructing from Christ. I'm not deconstructing from the Bible. I'm not deconstructing from the faith. I'm deconstructing from the political control and the supposed evangelicalism that I've been told was the Christian faith for so long. And I want to be sure, and I always want to do this. I'm quick to absolve my parents because my parents were never, toe the line evangelicals, toe the line, Christians in the fact that they didn't buy into something simply because the church taught it. They always kind of pushed back. They asked questions. They didn't settle for something that was just simply being told to them or handed out to them or given to them by or spoon-fed to them by pastors. They were people who asked questions and challenged. And that's where I get it. That's where my brother gets it. We're just people like that. I never want people to think that my parents are the ones who did that. It was the churches to which I adhered to when I got older and I started going to a separate church from my parents and started getting involved in youth groups and ministry in a way. When I started doing those things, that's when I really started being downloaded all of this information and being given this. So I'm deconstructing from that. But there are so many fascinating things within the Bible that just still in my head just still pull me towards the spiritual aspect of everything that's going on in the world. And I know that there are other ancient texts that fill in a lot of holes and that give information and that they paint a larger picture of the landscape at that time, of the different religions and the different cultures and how they operated and who their gods were and how they worshiped these gods and what they did to appease their gods. So all of that is, kind of is obviously still in the back of my mind because these are things I contemplated and talked about on the show a lot. But I kind of just stopped, I kind of just stopped because I was going through a crisis in my faith. I was going through a crisis emotionally and mentally. And it's taken me, coming up here, it's February 13th. So in 4 days will be the 2-year anniversary of the fire that changed our entire lives. The moment that changed everything. And there's not a day that goes by really that's not in there in some form. Mainly, I never go a day without thinking about Ginger, our golden retriever, whom we lost in the fire. I never go a day without thinking about her. And sometimes we sit around as a family and we share memories of her and how much we love her and how much we miss her. And we talk about all the silly things that she did and how she just loved everyone, all 4 of us in the family, everybody, because she's a golden retriever. But the 4 of us, we were her people. We were her family. She loved us all differently, but as much as the other. But I don't go a day without thinking about her. And, a lot of the pain and a lot of the issues that were caused go back to, the one question. Everybody always says, hey, why, God got you out of the house. You should be happy about that. He got your family out of the house. Nobody was home when this was going on. And I'm like, well, if God had that kind of foreknowledge, if he knew all of that stuff, why didn't he just stop the fire? I mean, if he's so good at all of that, and he can orchestrate, it's like, oh, I got to get you over here, and I got to get you over there, and I got to make sure you're over there, and I got to make sure all right, you leave, and then 5 minutes after you leave, I'm going to blow the house up. Well, how about, why didn't you just, like in the back of the room? Why didn't you just stop the fire? Why didn't you just not burn the house down? And that has been the question. And then it morphed into other things. You know, why doesn't God stop sex traffickers? Why did he let Jeffrey Epstein and these people that are in the Epstein Files continue to do these things? Why did he allow cannibalism? Why did he allow children to be abducted and sexually abused and used in satanic ritual abuse? And why all of that? Why don't you just stop that all? Why don't you just stop it? And this show is not about that. But this is, just kind of, giving you a heads up here. But my train of thought, where I'm going, where my mind is focused. I mean, technically it was 2 years ago today that the fire happened, but the 17th is the actual date. But, I kind of just set all of that stuff aside. I was like, you know what? I think I need to rethink some things. I need to reconsider some things. I need to study some things. I need to redo all of this and think through all of this. And it's been a struggle. It still is a struggle. Every day it still is a struggle, trying to regain some semblance of faith and some semblance of I guess you can say some semblance of belief. And but I with all of this Epstein Files stuff that's been dropped and all of the conversations that are swirling around it. And then I get this text from someone the other day, and they're like, hey, I was studying the Nephilim and then flat earth. And then I've got questions, and I bought a book, the book of Enoch, and I need to know some stuff here. And they were reaching out to me for answers and wanted to share some things with me. And I was like, all right, let's do this. Well, then it really kind of birthed in me this, I don't want to say new desire, but kind of a fresh desire to renew my study in the Word of God and to renew my study in these esoteric, paranormal type things that the Bible does discuss, and then look at history and all of that. So that is a positive for me. There's a real big, that's a huge thing for me. And for those of you that have kind of been there with me during all of this, for those of you who have not deleted me on Facebook or blocked me, or distanced yourself from me, or left me because of it, or told me that you didn't want to be associated with me, or told me that I shouldn't be asking these questions, or that they didn't want to be associated with me because it was damaging their reputation. For all of those people that decided to stay with me and decided to help me, pray for me, support me, a huge heartfelt thank you for all the prayers and for all of the, back when the fire happened, for the people who sent money. I'm using a board right now, a sound board, and I still have a microphone in there and I think I'm using, I don't know if this is the stand or not that I'm using for my camera, but I have a stand in there. Some of you will remember him. Peter Seraphin reached out to me after the fire, and he was like, hey, I've got a board and a mic and some things I can send you. And he literally sends me a box that has this soundboard that I'm still using right now, a microphone, a stand, and some other stuff. And I was like, dude, man, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. And, he, of course, just the way he was. And that's another thing. You look back at that and you're like, wow, why, somebody like Peter, who's doing such a much better job than I would ever do on the radio. He dies and I'm still alive. I mean, I'm grateful that I'm still alive, but why take people like that? But anyway, so this is what I was going to tell you. So Deb, what is going on here? Why have I lost my camera? What has happened? Sorry, I've lost my... All right, hold on for me just a second, Dave. I'm sure I'm live on my audio, but for some reason I am not live on my video. Pair device. Active, there we go. All right, I'm going to transition out of this so y'all don't see me putting this back on here. Okay. If you can still hear me, I'm sorry about that. For some reason, it just lost the pairing of my camera with my device here. So there we go. I think that's better. Oh, that's not it. No, that's not it either. I'm coming back. Oh my goodness. Sorry, folks. For some reason, this keeps disconnecting on me, and I'm not sure why. All right, there we go. I think that's it. Okay. All right. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. So because I received that text the other day, and because I'm kind of renewing my desire to, because it's kind of birthing in me and renewing this desire. One of the things that I think I'm going to do here is that I'm going to start doing another show where I take some of these books that I have. Why is that so choppy? Is it choppy now? Is it still choppy? I love doing this stuff live. It's awesome. Okay. I think there we go. I think that's good. So what I would like to do is that for subscribers to the show, I'm going to take these books and I'm going to read through and study these books, and then I'm going to find the scriptural passages that go along with the books and study the scriptures out, as well as some other historical documents that go with those and other historical books. And for anybody that is subscribed to me on Facebook, you will receive one show a month. And if you're subscribed to me on Substack, you'll receive 4 shows a month. And they'll be above and beyond the live show that's done. I might reduce some of the time on the live show so that I have time to do the planning and preparation for those other shows. But the reason to do that, and the reason I'm going to do it on a subscription-based service, is because it's going to require a ton of work to get the books, and then to read through the books and then study and make the correlations, the connections, and then present that information in a way that is palatable and entertaining and is positive for people to be able to learn and grow and understand. So if that is something you would like to do, just let me know. Go to Substack. Just go to aaronbarker.substack.com. You could subscribe there free, but you'll get the regular free things that drop out there. But if you subscribe there with $5 a month, you'll get 4 shows a month, and they can range from an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is, however long it takes to get through the material that week. And I'll provide you all with some study guides and provide you with information so that you'll be able to study along and read along with those books, do your own research, and then come to the show and maybe do, have your comments added to the show, and you be part of the conversation that we're having so that we can all discuss and all be a part of this and learn and grow more about this. Because I know that we have some varying end times views in the audience. I know that I have some varying end times views as well, but there is still something that we're moving towards. I don't feel like we're at a position where we're going to be like, oh, this is like crazy right now, and it's all crazy, and then, hey, it's going to be great, and then we're fine. And then it's going to get to a point where it's going to get all crazy again, and then just settle. I think we're moving towards something. And I think that something is going to be, it's possible that it's been revealed in old and ancient texts and old and ancient works. And it is possible that it is just flat revealed as we go. It could be something that we're working into, something that is impacting us, something along those lines. Something there could be potentially part of what we're doing now and how it's impacting us, etc. So if you would like to join, you can subscribe. The reason it's going to be 1 show a month for Facebook is because Facebook is 99 cents a month to subscribe. And you'll get special posts and special updates, and then the show will drop whatever show you get on for that sub service. And then you can also, but if you want the full totality of the show, the full experience of that, then you can go to Substack and you get $5 a month. It's going to get you the Bible study and the books, courses, et cetera, that we're going to do now. So that's definitely something that I'm going to start here, hopefully in the next couple of months. It's very exciting. I'm very excited about it. I was actually thinking about it the other day. And when I was messaging someone about this whole cannibal thing that came out with the Epstein Files, I was messaging somebody about that. And then I sent them a link to a book and I'm like, you know what? I actually own that book on PDF and Kindle. And I've been wanting to read that book again and work through it. And I'm like, well, why not just invite people along with me to do that? Because I think that this audience would appreciate that. All three of you out there, me and all my listener would really appreciate that. I know I would. All right, here, let me double check here some comments and see if there's anybody out there that's ready. So Deb, the reason that I brought all that up, you kind of got me on that segue, is you brought up earlier Ephesians chapter 6, and that is such an important point and such an amazing point, especially now in the world. I really wish that I could go dark on this screen. It's a very, very bright screen. I wonder if I can go. Oh no, here. Just forget it. I'll just do this. Huh. Hey, you can. I can do this. Sign in here real quick. I don't think it's going to let me. Sorry, I'm trying to see if there's a way for it to, and I don't think there is, a way for it to let me do dark mode on the Bible app online, but it won't. You mentioned, Deb, Ephesians chapter 6, and I'm going to go to something I haven't gone to in a while, and that is the King James Version, because that's the one I'm the most familiar with. I'm sure that most people out there are like that. And then I'm going to pop it up on the screen here so we can talk about it. I wish it would allow me to do this a little bit better. I'm just highlighting this in red for us so that we see it a little bit better. Okay. And then I'm going to add it right here. Did not expect to do this. This is all your fault, Deb. It's all your fault, Deb. You made me do this. There we go. I think the last time we did anything like a Bible like this, a Bible study kind of like this, not really a Bible study, but brought up any scripture like this, was back around the new year. So this is nice. I might have to change that to make it green. Yeah, because red is a little bit more harsh on the eyes, although I was doing that because it was about war. Stay with me, folks. Here we go. So especially now, this is extremely important, I think, to remember this, especially now since all the Epstein stuff is going on. It's extremely important to remember this out of Ephesians chapter 6. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day. And having done all to stand, stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. So the encouragement here, obviously, as we've seen there, put on the whole armor of God. Put on, therefore, everything that it takes for you to stand against the devil. You have to be strong. First, it says, be strong in the Lord. How are you strong in the Lord? You're strong in the Lord by praying. You're strong in the Lord by daily, with perseverance, watching and praying and supplicating for all of the saints. You're involved and engaged in ensuring that it's not just about you. You are engaged in a battle, and you have around you fellow soldiers. So you put on the whole armor of God so that you can stand against the wiles of the devil. And then he breaks down what those are, because we're not fighting against. This is one of those big things that people get really. It's one of those things that people miss a lot. My enemy is not Bill Clinton. My enemy is not Jeffrey Epstein. My enemy is not Donald Trump. It's the spirit that is behind them. The spirit of the world that is operating is that's the enemy that we're up against. And people can be caught up in that. They can willingly give themselves over to it, or they can be bystanders. They could be people that are just impacted by that. But if we realize that this is not against neighbor, it's not brother against brother, it's not father against mother, son against daughter. It is a spiritual battle that must be handled in spiritual ways. And most of this here, even though there are spiritual things that must be done behind the scenes for it, we also have to do physical things. We have to be involved in this world, and we actually have to do things and carry out justice and execute justice, etc. But this is one of those important things that we always have to remember. This text of Scripture, if you want to stand, if you want to be able to withstand against the evil, especially in the day that we are living now, you have to have truth, righteousness, the gospel of peace, the shield of faith, and the sword of the Spirit. Those are necessities. So I appreciate it, Deb, you bringing up that passage of Scripture. That's awesome to hear. I'm not sure what you're laughing at, Deb. I can't remember what I said. but if you think it's funny, I'm fine with that. But anyway, that's what got me talking about that. So here, let me jump over here, because I want to jump into some other things. This is an interesting story here that I found. Allison actually sent this to me the other day. I'm going to see if I can pull the actual video of it up, if this is the news story. Okay. I'll jump off this real quick. Let me transition my screen. No! Oh my gosh, that scared me. Sorry about that. Scared me. I didn't expect it. I really should have planned this one better. Un momento, por favors. Okay, that's not going to do it the way I want to.
Rise, shine, dine. McDonald's is bringing extra value back to breakfast.
Told you about the problem 6.
Okay, here we go. Almost, here we go. Okay, much better here. And I hope this didn't reset, and I hope it doesn't decide to play any ads. But here is a news story that is not funny, but absolutely understandable.
Months ago, and some customers say things have not improved. Channel 7's Tyree White spoke
Okay,
to one
all of
those
that work,
residents
and it's not, you know what? This is so frustrating to me. I did all of that work, and it wasn't even the news story.
We're challenging the state.
It wasn't even the news story. It was some other story that was that they were pushing. You know, Fox News does that all the time. They always make it to where whatever
Details
video,
are emerging this evening about the Christmas Eve
goodness
stabbing that left a
gracious.
man dead on a West Valley City neighborhood sidewalk. 2 News' Natalie.
All right, sorry. Oh boy, oh boy. If you're new to the show, I would like to say that this never happens, but that would be a lie. So I apologize for this. If it's your first time, if I invited you to watch the show and you are watching it, sometimes this is unfortunately how things go, because I am my own producer and I'm not that smart when it comes to it. So here we go. This is the story that I wanted to talk about. All of that.
Details are emerging this evening about the Christmas Eve stabbing that left a man dead on a West Valley City neighborhood sidewalk. 2 News' Natalie Wattis has the latest.
Around 7:55 this morning, a woman walking her dog stumbled upon the body of 45-year-old Jose Humberto Alvarado, who was found dead laying on this sidewalk here on Thane Drive. A blood trail from Alvarado led to an address on Atlas Way where the man had attended a party with his 39-year-old girlfriend on Christmas Eve. Police say they had responded to that party at 1:30 in the morning, after Alvarado allegedly was caught taking the leggings off of his girlfriend's 11-year-old female relative. By the time police got there, Alvarado had fled. Police say
By the time police got there, they were telling him, oh, he tried to sexually assault your daughter. Ma'am, I think it's time we move on.
Before he did, though, he had gotten into a confrontation with his girlfriend in front of the house. Police suspect the girlfriend stabbed Alvarado in his left shoulder and say he ultimately died from his injuries on Thane Drive. Police are asking anyone who caught anything suspicious on camera between the evening of Christmas Eve and 7:55 Christmas morning to call police with that information.
If there is anybody that lives here on Thane or anywhere on some of these side streets, if they have Ring doorbells and cameras and you're not home right now and you can access those, then call in at 801-840-4000.
The girlfriend was booked into the Salt Lake County Jail on Christmas Day on a felony murder charge. In West Valley City, Natalie Wattis, KUTV 2 News.
So tell me there, do you think this woman should be charged with felony murder? Do you think that this woman should face any jail time whatsoever? We don't really know what happened. The only 2 people that know what happened, 3 if you count, well, 6 if you count God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. The only 3 people that know what happened there, or 2 people that know what happened there, are the woman that stabbed the guy and the guy who got stabbed, the stabber and the stabbee. So we don't know what happened there, other than the fact that she had discovered evidently her boyfriend was taking the leggings off her 11-year-old female relative. Now, it doesn't even say daughter, it just says female relative. And there was so much of the blood that it led them back to the guy's address, and they booked her on felony murder. Now, this is in Utah. You would think in Utah, of all places, Utah would be like, oh man, the guy fafoed. Guy messed around and found out. just like all child predators, just like it should happen to all child predators. But she took, I don't want to say she took matters into her own hands. We don't know what the interaction was, what the threats were, what he was going to do, how he was going to operate, what was happening. I mean, to book her on felony murder, I'm just not quite sure. I'm down with that. Of course, I'd have to wait to find out what all the details are about that. Not going to have any sympathy for a guy who does that to to any young girl whatsoever. And okay, what else do we have here? We got that one. Let's talk a minute about ICE. Some clergy are standing up and saying Jesus' teachings leave Christians no choice but to resist ICE. Now, I know that there's going to be some people who are going to disagree with that statement. People are going to say, no, I think Jesus' teachings would say the opposite. But I would like to know what your thoughts are behind that. And, we're going to read through the article here and see what the clergy are saying and what justification they are using for them to say that Jesus' teachings would lead us to not be able to support ICE. So why don't we go ahead and hop on into that. Here's the article. I'm going to display it up on the screen so we can read through it together. Okay. All right. It says here that, oh boy. To sign up. Let me see if I have a subscription. There's a free subscription. Okay, here we go. It says Christian clergy are deploying spiritual infrastructure from organizing prayer circles to acting as human shields to resist the Trump administration's immigration agenda. The clergy members who spoke with Axios argue that Trump's immigration crackdown contradicts core biblical teachings about protecting the vulnerable, putting them at odds with the Christian nationalists who back the administration's policies. One minister says, I feel a huge responsibility as a Christian pastor to say not in my name. Reverend Rebecca Volkel, director of the Center for Sustainable Justice at Lindell United Church of Christ in Minneapolis, tells Axios. Volkel said the kind of Christianity practiced by Christian nationalists is diseased and distorted. I feel compelled to both resist ICE violence and the kind of Christianity that baptizes it. Most faith leaders say their work isn't about Democrats versus Republican policy, but rather about resisting state-authorized violence. Jesus isn't abstract when he teaches about this in Scripture. Minneapolis Reverend Jeff Sarshan of the Adena Community Lutheran Church tells Axios, citing biblical commands to love strangers and foreigners. I'm here as a follower of Jesus, and Jesus' call is clear to me that we should do justice and love kindness. When there are practices by our federal government and by ICE that counter that basic call, I have to speak out. If this was a Democratic political platform, I would be speaking out just as vehemently. President Trump was elected based on his promises to secure the border and deport criminal illegal aliens, White House spokesman Abigail Jackson told Axios in an emailed statement. Now, I would like to point out here, and I did cover this last week for those who want to accuse me of being one-sided here, and for those people who cannot formulate an argument, so they automatically jump to the Trump derangement syndrome. By the ACLU, there was a news story that was covered, or a situation covered by the ACLU, and this was back during the Obama administration. Sorry, my hand was in the way of the microphone. Let me pull this up here as well. Now, this story was written back in August of 2015. Where did it go? There we go. This story was written, this was published on ACLU.org. The Obama administration doubled down on one of its worst immigration legacies, the return and expansion of family detention, responding to a court order holding that its family detention camps violated the 1997 Flores Settlement Agreement. The Obama administration Friday again defended family detention as necessary to send a message to Central American families that they are not welcome here, even though it concedes that most of them are fleeing persecution. Now, a couple things I'd like to point out here. Now, this is not a direct comparison between what's going on right now and what the Obama administration did. The comparison is the separation of families and the Democratic outrage that Republicans are separating families. It happened under the Obama administration. Now, that does not justify it. That simply means that if you're going to go after that, you have to include and have to realize that this is a both-party thing. It is not just something that started under this administration with Donald Trump. This is something that had been going on. Now, the enforcement crackdown that ICE is doing on the streets where they're literally murdering Americans, shooting people, bragging about how they're shooting people, those things, that, to my knowledge, I don't remember that being done under the Obama administration or the Biden administration. The ICE crackdown that most people are talking about is the flooding the streets with ICE agents, breaking into homes without warrants, arresting people that are citizens, attacking people, and shooting people and killing people, those kind of problems there. That is something that we as Christians should not support. Not only as Christians, but I believe that as Christians and as constitutionalists or as freedom-loving, liberty-loving Americans, this should be something we are all, this should be something we are all extremely vocal about. Because today's illegal immigrants are tomorrow's domestic terrorists. And I want to make sure you get that. Today's illegal immigrants that they're going to lock up and put in detention centers, today's illegal immigrants that they're going to disappear and put in FEMA camps or concentration camps are tomorrow's domestic terrorists. And those domestic terrorists of tomorrow under the Republican administration are going to be different domestic terrorists under a Democrat administration. You see, when you start speaking out against an administration because of tyranny, because of things that are doing that are anti-Christian or that are illegal or unethical or unconstitutional, it doesn't matter which administration that is. Obama sent a drone to the other side of the world to unalive 2 American citizens. I mean, George W. Bush was part of the plan, and Dick Cheney was also part of the plan to bring down 9/11, bring down the World Trade Center on 9/11, which is another thing that the Epstein Files is just blowing wide open. The Epstein Files, the release of the Epstein Files are going to crack the world open. People are going to have such cognitive trauma seeing what are in those files and seeing who is implicated and seeing what information is being released. I don't know if some people are going to be able to recover. They're going to have a cracked dissociative response to this because it's going to be that traumatizing. For years, we've been building up to this. We've been seeing all the things that are happening. We've been seeing the building of the FEMA camps, the building of the detention centers. We've been seeing the separation of families. We've been seeing the increased TSA and the increased surveillance in society, the increased technocracy. We've seen all of that happen, and we've kind of become almost used to it. You know, well, phones are surveilling us. Phones are watching us. They're monitoring, tracking us, tagging us. That's just the way it is in society, you know? That's just the way it is. If you want to live in a free country, you got to have certain things, right? And unfortunately, that's just some of the certain things. But now, the idea that there really is a worldwide satanic pedophilic group that's running things from a certain region, many from a specific national certain region, the idea that, yes, the government did perpetrate inside jobs against us. Do you realize what's going to happen when people realize that COVID was a sham? Do you realize what's going to happen to people when they realize what was actually in that government juice they were forcing people to take? What are people going to do when they realize that the Epstein Files and the worldwide pedophilia and the deep state shadow government occultic people and all of the surveillance and COVID and all of the government juice and all of those things are all connected? What are they going to do? I think some people, it's going to crack their minds. They're not going to be able to take all of that. I mean, there are people who have studied this stuff for years. And I say people, but I've studied this stuff for years. And I see this stuff about cannibalism, and I still think, my gosh, I don't want this to be true. I just want this to be a far-fetched, out left field, crazy conspiracy theory, but it's not. When you see things like adrenochrome and you know that they harvest this chemical from behind the eyes of terrified children because that's when it's at the height of its potency, and that's the fountain of youth that the elite use to keep themselves alive and operating, it's not that far from what they're going to be doing to the bodies after they're done. You know, you look at something I got from the reason it jumps. This is why it's so important, because the ICE, the connection between the detention centers, the FEMA concentration camps, ICE, and the stuff with the Epstein Files is very simple. You don't know why people are being arrested. You're told that people are being arrested because they're illegal immigrants. You're told that they're entering into homes because those people are here in the country without the proper documentation. But I wonder if perhaps you could think with me for a moment that the people, or some of the folks that are being targeted, are actually folks that are dissenters, people that are vocal, people that are speaking out against the Trump administration, people that know information. You look at the Clinton body count, what they did and who they got rid of over the years because they got in their way. You don't think that they could use the arm of the government to do the same thing? Ask yourselves, who were on the planes that hit World Trade Center 1, 2, and crashed in the field of Pennsylvania? What was the passenger manifest? Who were the people that were at the school shootings? Were they children of dignitaries, relations to dignitaries, children of politicians? And I'm just throwing this out there. This is just a possibility. When someone is unalived in the streets, what were their connections? What did they know? Who did they know? You see somebody dies of a heart attack, somebody dies in a car accident, somebody dies of unaliving themselves, somebody dies in a house fire. Are they actually being unalived? And this is the connection between all of that and the detention camps and the detention, re-education camps, FEMA concentration camps, detention centers, whatever it is you want to call them. This is a connection between ICE and the Epstein Files. Just like the ATF, well, now the BATFE, was the Gestapo arm of the Department of Justice, now ICE is being used. And they're convincing people that the only reason they're being used is because of illegal immigration. Well, now it's going to expand to protesters against the Trump administration. And it's going to turn into the strong arm of the administration, whoever that administration is currently in the White House. It could be a Republican, it could be a Democrat. But they will use ICE as their enforcer for their policies. And you'll be told that this is all about immigration. But who are the people that are actually being arrested? Who are the people that are actually being taken? And that's why so many people, Christians, they see this, and although they're absolutely right, when they see that that people are being unalived in the streets and they're seeing the way that human beings are being treated, even if they are undocumented immigrants, when they see people being treated this way, they want to stop it because it's injustice. People are being treated horribly wrong, and it's blood is literally flowing through the streets, and Christians are standing up against that. There's another layer that goes with this, however. This is the strong arm, the enforcer of the administrations. This is going to be used to disappear dissidents, to disappear protesters, to disappear those who are speaking out against tyranny. And they're going to be taken and put into these concentration camps or these FEMA camps. The people who are so adamantly pushing against the Epstein Files, maybe their family members get caught up. Maybe they get tear gassed and shot, unfortunately, because they were protesting in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, it's kind of like one of those situations where they say, oh, my buddy was in the military, he died in a training exercise. No, he died in a black ops, off-books mission in another country. It was not a training exercise. Okay. Where do I want to jump to now? I think let me continue with this here real quick. Because it's important that I finish this article before I jump to some other things here. Is that it? What is that? There we go. Okay. Now, some other people disagree with the conclusions of some of these ministers that this is unchristian and needs to be, and that Jesus, our belief in Christ, is what pushes us to disagree with ICE. Somebody says here, President Trump was elected based on his promises to secure the border and deport criminal illegal aliens. White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson told Axios in an emailed statement, the American people overwhelmingly supported his law and order agenda, and he is keeping his promises. House Speaker Mike Johnson said in a lengthy X post that Christians are required to love their neighbors, but that the federal government is not bound by that same duty. The federal government is not a person. It is an entity, but it is made up by people. The fact that a supposed Christian says that Christians are required to love their neighbors, but the federal government's not bound by that duty, misses the point of changing culture with Christians embedded in it. The government does not operate independently of the church. The church is the sphere of influence of the church is what engages and teaches truth to the culture. He says here, the Bible is clear that Christians should practice personal charity, but also insist upon the enforcement of laws like our federal immigration statutes so that every person is subject to the governing authorities and those who resist incur judgment. So he's quoting from Romans chapter 13, an abuse of Romans chapter 13, by the way, wherein he is giving the government the authority to do whatever it wants outside of operating under any type of moral or ethics. You know, especially somebody here who says, "Oh, you're supposed to love your neighbor." Let's go ahead and put into place abortion bans. That's a Christian ethic. That's being controlled by a Christian ethic of loving our neighbors and ensuring that we don't murder the unborn children. How is that not the same as protecting people and their civil rights? Even if the government was not supposed to love like Christians do, and even if that was not a charge given to them, it's still not able to treat people unjustly, as Romans 13 says. Let me jump over here real quick and check the comments. All right, if there are any comments. Okay. So I just want to check something out here real quick. Hey, look at that. Okay. Sorry about that. Just checking out some to see if there's any comments over here on all the other streaming. I'm streaming, by the way, on Vocal, on Rumble, on Facebook, YouTube, and D Live. You can join us on any of those platforms if you would like to. Continuing here with this particular article, it says Christianity is not monolithic. Minneapolis Reverend Gia Starr Brown tells Axios, saying that historically some scriptures have been weaponized to support the objectification and dehumanization of people, such as religious endorsements of enslavement and efforts to control women. The term Christianity has taken on this kind of bad word because it's been associated largely with conservative spaces. Left-leaning Christians have a responsibility to reclaim that and say this is also what it looks like to follow Jesus. Faith leaders say religious resistance to government policy isn't new, citing the roles historically black churches played in the civil rights movement and the United Church of Christ's push for LGBTQ plus equality. There has always been Christian resistance to Christian justice movements, Vocal said. I feel like it is I feel like it is this story of both unmitigated cruelty and some of the most creative, badass resistance that I have ever been privileged to be a part of. The majority of the Bible tells us stories of persecution and injustice, so faith leaders and their congregations should be prepared for this moment of division. Star Brown tells Axios, this is what the Bible studies were for. We can actually replace biblical names from the Bible and put names of people that have been taken or killed. That's what living scripture is. I believe that's an excellent point. We've all really been, especially those who are raised in churches and these evangelical circles, we've always been told the government is the enemy and we are the Christian resistance to what the government is trying to do. And then in a time when we can actually stand and show Christian principles against a tyrannical government, what we instead do is we just kowtow to it and say, well, God, you put Donald Trump in charge of the government. So I put Donald Trump in charge of the government, so we just got to do what he says, because that's what God decided. God even uses really bad people, God uses like sinners and horrible like stuff and people and things like that and stuff. So like we should like and stuff have like things like that and stuff should like, Father God should like, just kind of do like his own thing. You know what I'm saying? That's the response that we're getting. That is instead the response that we're getting when we should be the Christian resistance to what the government is doing against the people. Oh, man. Let's see what else I've got up here. Oh, that's last week's show prep. I've got some stuff here from this show prep. Oh, yeah, this is one of those stories as well that I think kind of goes along with this. If I can get to it. Man, this shirt has this on there, and my headphones are rubbing against it, so I apologize. It's a Sonic shirt. It was one of my favorite games growing up. Sonic was. But let me see here if I can get this onto the scope. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Trying to get the headline of this to appear. Okay, here we go. I think this will work. It's going to look terrible, but it's going to work. Okay. Nope, didn't work. Less than 14% of Trump's ICE arrests had violent criminal records, report says. Why is it doing that? I think it's doing it because of this. There we go. It's the weirdest thing why it's doing this. Sorry. Here we go. About 40% of those arrested only had civil immigration violations and weren't charged or convicted of any other offenses. Less than 1% were accused or convicted of homicide, and less than 2% were accused or convicted of sexual assault, citing an internal DHS report that shows ICE tripled the number of arrests last year compared to 2024. The report is similar to data from the Deportation Data Project that found a third of immigrants arrested nationwide had no criminal record. The New York Times reported in December. The report comes as Americans' views of Trump's immigration enforcement tactics have worsened in the wake of two high-profile killings of Americans by federal agents in Minneapolis this year. Polls consistently show a majority believe ICE is too aggressive in their tactics. ICE's widespread approach of targeting undocumented immigrants rather than those with criminal records has caused division within Trump's administration. As his border czar, Tom Homan, prefers a targeted approach, and Homeland Security Kristi Noem favors mass raids. So 14%, less than 14% of Trump's ICE arrests had violent criminal records. And that's what we were supposed to be going after. That's what we were told we were going to be getting. was Trump going after violent criminal records, or the most violent among us, the drug dealers, the human traffickers. He never said they were going to go after misdemeanors. But then it morphed to everybody's like, we want them all to get out of here. We just want everybody out of here. It doesn't belong here. Get them out of here. So there we have it. The Trump raids, the ICE raids that are not even considered effective because they're not getting out the people that Trump promised would get out, that he would be getting out of the country. Let's do this here too, because I'm going to talk a little bit more about those detention centers here in a minute. But here is, let's go to Andy Beshear. This is the Kentucky governor, Andy Beshear. Andy Beshear went on The View this past week, and he addressed some circumstances regarding ICE, and he was questioned, and he answered what his position was on ICE and what he thinks should be done and what he thinks should be going on with them. So I want to play this for you because ICE did also respond to this as well. I honestly don't think that ICE or any of these agencies should be running any type of social media. I don't know if you agree or disagree with me on that, but I genuinely do not think that there should be any type of ICE or any type of government allowed social media to respond or talk to people or treat them like crap. I think that's a big problem that we're seeing with a lot of these social media accounts. And I believe that this is something that we should address. What is going on here? My apologies. Nope, wrong one. All right, here is Governor Andy Beshear, and he is on The View talking about there we go. This is Governor Andy Beshear on The View this past week. Let's see what he has to say here.
Do you expect this crackdown to continue throughout the country? And what is your plan for your state if it comes to Kentucky?
Well, every ICE agent should be withdrawn from every city and every community that they're in.
Amen, brother.
This organization has to be reformed from the top down. Mm-hmm. Secretary Noem needs to be fired, and every agent needs to be retrained. I mean, I was Attorney General in Kentucky, the top law enforcement official. The aggressive actions of ICE you don't see with any other law enforcement group anywhere. Mm-hmm. The idea that you don't need a judicial warrant to storm into the home of an American is just wrong. And
so let's consider first what he is saying here as a Democrat. You don't, and he is saying this about the government. Traditionally, Democrats and liberals are extremely government heavy, right? He is saying here, as a Democrat governor, that they don't have the right to storm your house without a warrant. What is wrong with that statement? All right? Absolutely nothing is the answer for those who are taking a minute to try to find one as you're scrambling around in your brain hole for it. There is absolutely nothing wrong with what Andy Beshear just said there. ICE needs a warrant. They have administrative warrants. They don't have judicial warrants. Judicial warrants are where you have to actually present evidence that says we have reason to suspect this crime is being committed. And then then the information is looked at by a judge, and the judge says, I agree, and they sign off on the warrant. With ICE, they don't have that. And now ICE has essentially been given carte blanche to enter in any home they want to for any reason they want to. And this doesn't seem like a Gestapo to you. This doesn't seem like a single party run enforcer rather than a real agency, enforcement agency.
And we've got to make sure that this organization, in the way that it acts, is going to respect all of our rights. There is a body count of American citizens right now because of the actions of this agency. That should be enough to say we're going to take a pause, we're going to pull everybody back, and we're going to try to get it right.
You hope that.
What is wrong with what the dude just said? Again, I'll give you a hint. Absolutely nothing is wrong with what Andy Beshear just said. Everything that Andy Beshear talked about there is everything that every Republican should be screaming about in agreement. This should be like a Cynthia McKinney to 9/11 type agreement, like Rosie O'Donnell to the 9/11 movement type agreement. We should be saying thank you for someone on the left clearly talking. All right, hold on just a second. Sorry, just got a text from the family regarding a person in the family here. Trying to remember what my train of thought was there. Just a second. I'm going to go back here. You might hear me talking again with what Andy Beshear just said. Everything that Andy Beshear talked about there is everything that every Republican should be screaming about in agreement. This should be like a Cynthia McKinney to 9/11 type agreement, like Rosie O'Donnell to the 9/11 movement type agreement. We should be saying thank you for someone on the left clearly talking. Okay, so this should be one of those moments where we are in agreement with those folks on the other side of the aisle. There should be no reason that what Andy Beshear said there should be shot down by Republicans. Everything about the statement was exactly right. It needs to be reformed. When I say reformed, I mean abolished. It should be abolished. ICE should be abolished. We should let that melt in the springtime of freedom, and we should find other ways to enforce these particular types of immigration laws, because the people that are benefiting are the elite, and the ones who are being hurt are the American citizens and the undocumented immigrants trying to get away from the persecution in their own country. ICE responded to this, and their response was, we'll continue to withdraw criminal aliens from Kentucky regardless of your rhetoric, Governor. Why is a government agency responding that way to a governor? Where are the people saying, where are the people saying, hey, you really should shut up? Like you really don't need to be talking about this. Whoever responded to that needs to be sacked, and that means fired. It doesn't mean hurt. Here we go. I'm going to show you the tweet from them, so you can get a, so you can see that I'm not making this up. Because you're not allowed to. Only Donald Trump is allowed to make stuff up. He doesn't have to produce evidence. Everybody else does. But here we go. Here is the tweet from ICE. Crap in a handbasket. Where did you go? There we go. We'll continue to withdraw criminal aliens from Kentucky regardless of your rhetoric, Governor. I mean, like, whoever, the DHS, whoever's in charge of the social media, they should walk out there and be like, who posted that? You pack up your crap, you're fired, get out. We don't talk about that. We don't do those things. We don't address governors like that. We don't stoop to the level of these types of rhetoric. Now, of course, the head guy, their boss, Donald Trump, is a freaking tweeting, Xing truthing fool, and just speaks stupid things constantly from his mouth hole. Let's go here real quick. What is this? Oh. We've had former Norwegian Prime Minister Thorbjørn Jagland arrested at his home a day after his parliamentary immunity was lifted in connection with the Epstein case. People around the world. Sultan Ahmad bin Salayem has resigned as chairman and group CEO of DP World, the state-linked Emirati global ports and logistics company that plays a major role in the international shipping and trade, after emails showed his extensive and disturbing communications with Jeffrey Epstein. People are resigning. People are stepping down. People are going to start having justice come after them, and we should 100% support that. Where was I going? Okay, so I played the Andy Beshear thing, and all right, a couple other things I want to jump in here real quick and talk about, because this is caused quite a stir on some of my socials on Facebook here this past week. So last week on the show, I commented about how ICE was buying up land and trying to acquire land and empty buildings around the nation, and they were going to be building detention centers so that they could house illegal aliens, so-called. Undocumented immigrants when they rounded them up. Now, we've seen that less than 14% of those people who have been arrested by ICE are actually violent offenders. And all the while I have done this, throughout this past week, I posted up a reel about that segment of the show. I have had people laugh at that constantly. Several people have laughed at it. Several people have made comments about it as if I am crazy, or if I'm told I have Trump derangement syndrome, told that I'm paranoid, and all of this stuff. I generally that stuff just baffles me, because people are stupid when they make those kind of comments and they make those kind of reactions. It's kind of like, it's kind of like somebody has their foot caught in a bear trap, and you're like, hey, your foot's caught in a bear trap. Whatever, you're just paranoid. No. I mean, like your foot. Stop making stuff up. Well, I'm not. If you just look down, there's a bear trap, and it has closed up on your foot like that. And they're like, nah, what's your source for that being a bear trap? Huh? What? Wait, just show me your source. Are you an expert? You know what you have? You have bear derangement syndrome. That's your problem. You have bear trapping derangement syndrome. All right, buddy, whatever. It is that's probably one of the dumbest ad hominem attacks that's out there. That's like that's the new conspiracy theorist. Somebody says, "Well, he's got TDS." That's just that's just today's version of saying, "Well, they're just a conspiracy theorist." They dismiss you without an argument to counter the points you have brought up, because they're not intelligent enough to go point by point and either argue with you directly or to accept the fact that what you're saying is actually legitimately true. Trump does it all the time. People accuse you of committing ad hominem attacks if you call them dumb or stupid or whatever it is. I don't really do that a lot. But people accuse you of ad hominem attacks. Donald Trump, but by that standard, Donald Trump is constantly launching ad hominem attacks at people. Somebody asks him a question. What does he say? Who do you work for? Fake news. That's fake news. Very horrible. You never smile. What's wrong with you? Why don't you ever smile? I've known you forever. Maybe it's because you know you're being dishonest. You're not being truthful. I mean, seriously, people just don't understand the way logic and the way argument works and the way that you're supposed to engage in conversations and discussions like that. Excuse me. But I do want to, so people, of course, they challenge it, and I have no problem, with people challenging, people saying that they want you to produce sources. There's no problem with producing sources whatsoever. So what I did is, rather than produce, I did produce a news story, and they're like, you know what, you don't have any credible, reliable sources. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. I'm going to go ahead and give you proof from the Department of Homeland Security that says they are actually searching for properties and land, etc. And is that good enough for you? You seeing the evidence from the Department of Homeland Security, is that good enough for you? And still, they don't receive it. They don't accept it. They won't, for some reason, allow that to break into their conditioning and break their trance of worshiping Trump and everything that he has to say. Let's see here. I'm going to try to find this here real quick. Yeah, here we go. Sorry, I had the two sources here I was going to pull up. Man, why is Facebook being like this? Okay, so we have, this hit my heel. I hate when I do that. Hit it on both of my heel bones on my desk. ICE Detention Reengineering Initiative Overview. This is, let me go ahead and I'm going to share this window with you as well, so you can see this. Turn that off. I don't know why this is all of a sudden jacked up. I think it's because I have done this today. Okay. Okay. ICE Detention Reengineering Initiative. Overview. Under the Detention Reengineering Initiative, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE enforcement and removal operations will fully implement a new detention model by end of fiscal year 2026. This effort aims to meet the growing demand for bed space and streamline the detention and removal process, focusing on non-traditional facilities built specifically to support ICE's needs. This model includes the acquisition and renovation of 8 large-scale detention centers and 16 processing sites, as well as the acquisition of 10 existing turnkey facilities where ICE ERO already operates. The estimated total cost for the new detention center model is $38.3 billion and will be funded through Congress's allocation of funds through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. This new model will allow ICE to create an efficient detention network by reducing the total number of contracted detention facilities in use while increasing total bed capacity, enhancing custody management, and streamlining removal operations. ICE is advancing the DRI with the goal of fully implementing a new detention model by the end of fiscal year 26. The new model is designed to strategically increase bed capacity to 92,600 beds. ICE's surge in hiring effort has resulted in the addition of 12,000 new law enforcement officers. For ICE to sustain the anticipated increase in enforcement operations and arrests in 26, an increase in detention capacity will be necessary downstream requirement. ICE plans to activate all facilities by November 3rd, 2026, ensuring the timely expansion of detention capacity. Facility detention renovation and delivery. Contractors will design and renovate existing structures to meet ICE's detention and design standards and the requirements of the Architectural Barriers Act of '68. Delivered facilities will be safe, energy efficient, and compliant with all relevant federal, state, and local laws. The scope includes regional processing centers housed an average daily population of 1,000 to 1,500 detainees for average of stays of 3 to 7 days. These will serve as staging locations for transfers or removals. Large-scale detention facilities are capable of securely and humanely housing 7,000 to 10,000 detainees for periods averaging less than 60 days. These sites will serve as the primary location for These sites will serve as the primary locations for international removals. These sites will incorporate design build services, construction management, facility and pragmatic operations and services, and program management functions to ensure the renovation and commission of process is conducted diligently. All of these, this is a white paper that has been written about what they're doing. Here is an ICE detention facility. I believe this is a turnkey facility that they want to purchase with a projected bed capacity of 400 to 600 people in New Hampshire. This is the proof. That is the information. That is the proof that shows you they are actually acquiring buildings and land. Now, what people laugh at is the concern that these buildings and land are going to be used against the American people. But that was not a concern. When Obama was doing this, when FEMA camps were built, people were freaking out about the fact that these were going to be used against American citizens. And now they're being built, but because it's under the auspices of ICE and Trump is the one doing it, there's no longer any fear. There's no longer any problem. There are no longer any issues. So when you talk about reliable sources, is this a reliable enough source from you, from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement itself, from the Department of Homeland Security, telling you this is what we're going to do? We're going to have them all up and running by November 30th, 2026. Is this for some reason not a reliable source? Let's go here real quick because I also want to jump into this. I do want to say this because I am going to have to, I'm finding a little bit out about a family issue that's going on here. So I'm probably going to be wrapping this up here pretty quick. Biometric voting. I want to encourage you to get ready because it is coming. Detention camps are coming. Biometric voting is coming. with the new Save America Act, I think is what it's called. What's it called here? Yeah, the Save America Act, and the talks from the Trump administration to essentially nationalize elections. Steve Bannon talking about sending in troops around polling places. This is voter intimidation. This is federal government encroaching upon states' rights of running the elections constitutionally. If you disagree with the administration, you disagree with their voting policies, you disagree with their voting enforcement, you disagree with their immigration enforcement, you're going to be rounded up and put in a detention center if we don't stop this now. And you can laugh all you want at this. You can mock me all you want over this. But the only reason you're laughing and mocking is because it's your God and your idol, Donald Trump, that is in charge. And you think for some reason he gives a crap about you, but he doesn't. He cares only about himself. He cares only about making himself look good and revenge on his enemies. He doesn't care about justice. He doesn't care about children. He doesn't care about America. He cares only about himself. And he is the type of person, I believe, that will give the order to begin rounding up dissidents. He will engage martial law, and he will start rounding people up and putting them in detention facilities that are supposed to be made for ICE, but will be used for American citizens that are speaking out against his tyrannical rule and his authoritarian bent. Now, one of the things I think is going to happen here as well, and I've talked about this before, when it comes to voting, there's going to be some massive changes where biometric identification is going to be utilized in order for you to be able to vote. And it's going to be your phone. You're probably going to have a geofencing, probably going to have some type of geofencing set up where you enter into a polling area or a polling place. They can tell that your phone is there. You look at your phone, you use your fingerprint or your facial scan. It's going to register you as the person, as the owner of that phone. You're going to cast your vote and it's going to count it, and then you're going to exit that geofencing area. And if you try to go into another one somewhere else, it's going to prevent you from voting again. But there's also all kinds of ways that people can fake this. You have AI and deep fakes, which can use somebody's facial features. You have morphing technology. You have injection technology. These different types of technologies which can impact the way a person votes. They can blackmail people. They can plant evidence on people's devices. I believe that eventually, not only with the biometric data that they're going to be utilizing for voting, in order to combat against deep fakes and AI, I believe that there's going to be a push for some type of implantable some type of implantable chip or some type of mark that is put, I don't know, somewhere maybe on the forehead, that when an AI deepfake is created, it's not going to be able to replicate that technology. So when somebody sees a video and it's maybe, Donald Trump kicking a puppy or Joe Biden showering with his daughter, you're going to be able to tell that is a fake, a deep fake, because every person has to have this specific tattoo or mark embedded in their skin, which cannot be duplicated on an AI technology. How are they going to get there? It's some type of beast tech. It's some type of, otherworldly data or some type of otherworldly technology that has been downloaded by the Nephilim on Mount Hermon. I don't know. But I think that that's possibly where we're going with this. And they're going to use it as a way to tell you that you have to have this mark to prevent yourself from being deep faked into being mocked or to being changed via AI. All right, that's something I want to explore more, but I am finding out about a family emergency. I do have to end the show because I have to go take care of that and find out some information there. Just be in prayer. Don't want to say anything yet. Just be in prayer for my family as we're finding out some information here. Okay, so let's see. Deb says, I believe most of what you said, but vehemently do not believe he will do that in the camps. Why? And that is a sincere question. Why do you not believe that Donald Trump will do that? You may want to, I am going to have to go ahead and end the stream. I'd love to hear your answer though, Deb. If you want, we have a chat on Facebook. Somebody can add you there if you want to. It's the Aaron Barker Show chat. You can have yourself added on, and you can continue this conversation there. I do need to jump off here, and thank you so much, folks, for joining me. I had a lot more planned today, kind of got thrown off there, and I apologize for that, but we will talk to you soon, and I'll be releasing some details about the Bible studies that we're going to be doing and about the book studies. Excuse me, I hope you didn't hear that. The book studies, the Bible studies you're going to be doing for the subscribers, and hopefully we'll get to that pretty soon because he wants to look good to his constituents. Well, Deb, I appreciate your honesty. I don't know if you're I'm glad that your answer wasn't because I think he's a good person or I think that he wouldn't do that. I appreciate what you're saying there. I don't think he respects his constituents. He genuinely, I think that he believes there's nothing that he does that could be wrong. I think he's just narcissistic enough to believe that he's able to explain himself out of why he was mentioned over 38,000 times in the Epstein Files. I think he's narcissistic enough to be able to just say, those are fake. Those are none of that's true. I don't believe it. Don't believe anything that's said about me and Epstein. He was a creep. I kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. No, you didn't. You didn't kick him out of Mar-a-Lago because the FBI's even come out and saying that this is not true. The emails are not showing that that's not true. The emails are showing that he still attended Mar-a-Lago. It's showing that he was given suggestions for replacements for Mnuchin. So don't act as though, Trump, that this is, I think he's just narcissistic enough to believe that he's going to be able to explain himself out of any of this stuff. I don't think he believes it's going to damage his rep, essentially. But thank you for saying that, Deb. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to drop that in the Facebook chat. I'm going to go ahead and jump off here. Thank you all so much for your kindness. Thanks for being part of the show, and hope to see you again. Have a fantastic day and a great weekend.